All right, there we go. That should be better. I apologize. I hate to have ended that and then done it, had to restart the whole thing, but hopefully this should be working better. Yeah, that looks all right. Okay, there we go. Once again, sorry about that. Hopefully people filter back in. That was very unfortunate, but I had the wrong setting on to the point where chat was super delayed, so it'd be super impossible to interact with anyone with any decency. So I had to get that restarted so I could get that fixed, but we should be good to get going. Hopefully it all sort of fixes itself. So yeah, without further ado, so I'll kind of talk about what I'm going to be doing today. And today I'm going to be actually taking, this is a company and thing I've been doing on and off for quite a while, and I just want to take this to completion. I think the best way to do that is live, because I think there's a lot that can be learned from this, and I'm going to actually be changing the stack up. So I have a version of this already built in Next with all that stuff, but I think it'd be really cool to build it in Go for the backend, because I want to redo that in Go. But I also want to do the same thing. I want to change the front end to Astro, because I think it's a super high performance front end, and the way they do their data rendering and their data model looks really nice to me. I mean, data fetching. So I want to leverage that and try that out. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's see. Let me go ahead and grab the pull up Figma real quick. Grab the login real quick. Don't know what you're doing. What are you mad about, Figma? Okay, well, we'll do this in here then. So we can do this, and then I'm going to have, all right, so this is the sort of, refresh. What is going on? Oh, I believe my iPad crashed, so that's why my second screen isn't working. Ugh, sorry, I know this is a mess. It's on bad. Go, and then I want to put this, go down here, up, and I want to grab this, and I want to grab this right here, close that out. There we go. Okay, so all of this is delayed, but we should be okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started with the backend itself. So I believe I already have this open. So I just went ahead this morning. I started putting the first sort of pieces in place here. I got the, I started setting this up. I had that earlier video where I sort of went over how I structure my Go projects, and a lot of you had a lot of feedback on that. So I've changed how some of this works, and I think it is a lot nicer. There's a lot of stuff that I think I was doing wrong. So this should be a much better setup. Here I have my command directory and HTTP. So now we're going to be modeling this more around a domain driven type thing. So basically organizing things by what they actually do versus the other way of doing it, which the way I was doing it before was I was kind of just putting it out like an Express server, and this is more of a Go way of doing it with this internal directory, which I think is going to be better. So for my server, I'm going to be using Fiber, and let's go ahead and just start getting this set up. I'm going to be using MongoDB for this. So GoLang Fiber. Is this working down here? Really don't trust this at this point. Discard. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. All right, so let's go ahead and grab this. Put this in here. Then let's go ahead and create our one thing that I was using for a sort of guide here is this GoDDD project, domain-driven design. It's not exactly how I'm going to do this, but it seems generally speaking about like what I want. So it's going to have like this main function and then a run function, a build server function, read configuration, all this stuff. So I think that's going to be good. I'm going to be using Viper here instead because I think that's going to be even better than some of the stuff I was using before. So let's go ahead and get this started. So I'm going to go ahead down here and do clear. So I got fiber installed. Let's go ahead and create this. Let's do a func run. So I'm going to have a run function down here. So this run function is what's going to actually execute whatever I want to do. And within my run function, I need to generate my all of my different pieces here. So I'm going to need a build server. I'm going to need a database setup of some sort. Well, I think that you can do it, create new services and create it by directory. Because I think, honestly, the best way to do this is going to be to use MongoDB, and then each section is going to have its own sort of database section. So I'm going to have like a storage section within each part of my app. This is a very new way of building apps for me, so I think that this will be very interesting, and I think there's a lot to learn here. So for now, I'm just going to do func build server, and then this is going to return fiber.app. So it's going to return a fiber app. And then in here, I'm going to do app : equals fiber.new, then return app for now. And up here within run, let's see. So the way they like doing it in here is they have this run, which returns a cleanup, which turn func, cancel. Yeah, that makes sense. And then server shutdown. Yeah, all of that makes sense. Okay, so I guess what I will do for now is, I will just do error for now. We'll go ahead and add that later. We're going to do app build server, and then yes, that is going to return that. And then within main here, I'm going to go ahead and do get this going. Run os.it. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so then I'm just going to do run in here for now. More will be added to this, but for now let's do error : equals this. Then we'll do if error not equal to nil, panic the error. And then for now, if we go ahead and on my build server, I'm going to add one root. So let's just add this to make sure that we've got something printed out here. We're doing this really, really from scratch. But in here, we'll just do return hello world. Perfect. You can go ahead and do go run. Or actually, no, I have this actually set up correctly to where we can just do task dev, and then this will run air and it'll build it and run it for me. I have my fiber app going over here. And then if I open this up and I have this running on 8080 and slash, you can hit enter, hello world. Beautiful. All right, so the basics are set up here. Oh, let me zoom in on this actually. This will make it way nicer to look at for you guys. Forgot about that. Zoom in on this. So there we go. All right, so now that we have all of this working, let's start looking at the user side of things. So the first thing I'm going to want to do within this project is going to be user management. That's going to be the main thing that we have to do here, honestly, is going to be users, because we're going to be using a CMS for all the products and stuff, so we don't really have to manage them. Really, with the user, it's just going to be this. I think you could make an argument that authentication could be its own concern, but I think I just want user to have everything, and that's going to contain authentication and all of that stuff. So within user, we're going to need to actually create this module. So the user folder in here is going to need to have a storage directory. Within the user, we're going to need a, let's see, probably the handlers is not ideal. What's the easiest way to structure this? I think I'm going to do a, let's just do Go files for now, and then we can add directories later. Router.go. And then within router.go, we will just have package user. And then within storage, I'm going to go ahead and do init.go, because we're going to need to actually create this. We're going to need to initialize our database somehow, some way, to keep track of all of this. Yeah, move that into user. There we go. So now this is organized correctly. So within storage, package storage. So now we can go ahead and get, let's get MongoDB installed. So we can do MongoDB, GoLang. I need to get the command out of there. Quick start. Or whoops, here it is. Grab that. Control C, go get this. I don't want GB files. So within storage, we're going to go ahead, and this is where I'm going to do my, let me double check how this is done. Again, this is a very different way from how I usually like organize all of this stuff, but I think it's definitely worth looking into. So aggregate root, so just creating all of this. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Config.json. Yep, that makes sense. Okay, main.go. My iPad has crashed again. I'm just going to stop using this, and we're just going to use, we're just going to bring up this over here so I can keep track of this. There we go. All right, cool. What is up, guys? Thank you. I will definitely be keeping it up. Got a lot of stuff planned, a lot of stuff we're going to do. Is there a way for me to just put this in like a smaller window? I guess I can just leave that. No, I don't want that open. Yeah, here. There we go. Okay, so within our storage directory, we're just going to do a init, and then this is going to be func. How do I want to manage this? How do they do? Biggest thing that I'm curious about that they do in here is the way they set up their database and all that stuff, because they have like a database handler. So like, yeah, domain, product, new product, return. Yeah, okay, so that just creates a product order. Okay, so we have our type order. I agree with this. New order. We're going ahead and doing this. So there's no, so we're adding an event. And then, okay, yeah, this is, oh, and then we have all of this stuff. Okay. No, I don't want, maybe I want this over here. There we go. All right. Okay, so then within this function, we're just going to do, how do I want to do this? I think within storage, honestly, we can just do storage. Just do user.go, honestly, and then let's just make our type user struct. So this user is going to need to have an ID, which is going to be a string, and then that's going to be in JSON, that's going to be this ID. Within the BSON, this is actually going to be underscore ID, so we're going to be using MongoDB for this. And then I'm just going to want to keep track of an email of a string, and then a password of a string, and it's going to yell at me here because we need to make sure that these are capitalized. We do this, and then once we got all of that set up, we can go ahead and do, this password will be hashed, obviously. So we have our email and password. I'll just keep track of a first name, a string, and then a last name. And that'll be good enough for right now. Nothing too crazy here. JSON. Come on, Copilot, you know what I want. Come on. No, it's not gonna do it. Okay. Usually figures out the boilerplate for me, but it does not seem to be doing so here. So we've got this, and then we can go ahead. So we have our email, password, first name, last name, and then let's go ahead and do, yeah, so we just want this. Yeah, I don't think that there's anything else we need in here for this first part. So within our storage module, we're going to have our user. And within our router here, we're going to need to actually create our user router here. So within Fiber, we're going to need to create a new group. So within our Fiber, what we can do is we can actually we can add these new groups. So I'm going to go ahead and do func create user routes. Create user routes, and this is going to take in app star fiber.app. So pointer. So it's a pointer to a Fiber app. And then it sometimes imports the wrong version of Fiber. It's kind of annoying. I'm going to be building, this is basically a sort of, it's basically an e-commerce app. It's nothing too crazy. I've been working on this for a while. And essentially what this is going to do is this is going to, it'll allow end users to create and sell lesson plan type things. I can open up the Figma for you here. So if we get rid of that, just open up this. So this is the color scheme, and then this is the sort of idea. It's nothing too particularly crazy. It's just stuff like this. It's very much just an e-commerce site, but I think it's worth building this live because I'm going to do all the user management backend stuff in Go. So I'm going to be using the front end is going to be in Astro and the backend is going to be in Go. I think this is going to be a very useful exercise for both myself and you guys to get a good idea of how this stuff would actually work, because there is a lot of stuff on Go that is very trivial. There's a lot of like basic examples, but these real life examples of doing authentication, user management, CRUD, all this stuff in a real app and fetching it into a real app, it's not really out there. So I want to do this. I think this is worth building in public. And also, I want to try out Astro. I've wanted to try out Astro for a while, and I think this is the perfect place to do it because this is a very static type site. It's mostly just going to be these static pages which are fetching out of a CMS, and I'm going to be using Sanity for my CMS because I'm lazy and I don't want to custom build a CMS. That's going to be really obnoxious and dumb. So we're just going to use a CMS, and really Go is just going to be handling the users. It's going to be handling the carts. It's going to be handling the settings, what users own, the stripe, all that stuff. So a lot of useful stuff there. Okay, so within create user routes, let's go ahead and do actually let's do user group equals app.group/user. And let's go ahead and do we get this. Yeah, so this is super basic for right now, but this will allow us to, so this will create our user routes, and then within our yeah, perfect. So then back within our build server, we're going to create our new Fiber app. We're going to add middlewares. So I'm going to do app.use and then cores, I believe. Cores.new. Beautiful. So we're going to have cores in here. I want to have a logger in here. App.use logger.new. Beautiful. So we have a logger. We have cores. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want. Oh, yeah, recover.use. Recover dot yep, recover. Yeah, okay, cool. So we have all of this stuff now in here for our app. We have this basic hello world. Let's go ahead and add the user roots. So then that's going to go ahead and do app or create, or it's user dot create user roots, and then we pass in app. That should work there. Build something with Spring Boot. I am not a Java or Kotlin dev. I don't think I will be doing anything with Spring Boot, to be honest. Is it worth converting your Gin app to Fiber? Probably not. The performance increase, it exists, but if it already works, typically speaking though, if you do all this stuff right, it should be a very light abstraction, to be completely honest. It should be a pretty trivial task to move from one to the other. I was able to convert Insider Viz from Gin to Fiber in like about 2 hours or so. Is pretty easy. And the way I'm going to be designing this one, I want to make sure that this is going to be nice and modular and have all that stuff here. So yeah, okay. So in here, so I've created all of that. And if we do go ahead and do task dev, because I'm using this task file over here, makes it nice. I have these commands, make my life a lot easier. And it's going to yell at me. It's going to say invalid handler app.use. Which one is it mad about here? I think it's router, actually. I think I know which one it is. I think it's this one. Save that. Building. Yeah, beautiful. Okay, I think that one was off. We'll take a look at that in a sec. So user, hello world, perfect. Okay, so now our user object is in here. So now we're going to go ahead and need to actually make our like user handler type roots or whatever. Had a lot of people saying that handler is a dumb way to name these and do all that stuff, which I sort of get. So I guess what I'll end up doing is I'll probably do, so I have this user directory in here. I have storage. What's going to be the easiest way to do this? Probably, let's just do, I think I want to make a directory called HTTP handlers, because it is correct that we could have like a handler in here that could be for like gRPC or something. It could be for something completely different. So within this HTTP handlers, let's go ahead and just add a few files. So we have, let's see. So I think let's just do, for our first handlers, we're going to want to just do auth.go. So this is going to be HTTP handlers, HTTP handlers. Okay. There we go. So in this I don't think that this is the way that it's usually supposed to be done, but I might get yelled at that for, yeah, I'm probably gonna get yelled at about that, but yeah, whatever. So let's just do func, yeah, login. For now, we can leave this empty. So we're gonna have this, make sure we're importing v2. Then we're gonna go ahead and do func logout, c.fiber. Probably going to end up refactoring all of this into something cleaner later, but I'm kind of just throwing stuff out there right now to get this built in something really basic. So I want login, logout, and then we're going to need a func sign up. So that will handle this. And then within, and then we're going to want to get a func profile, which will just get the basic user information in here. And now if we go back over to our, we should probably define that up here and then implement all of these onto a like user auth handler object, which is I think how I'm going to refactor this later. But for now, we'll just leave this. Within our storage, we're going to implement all of the methods we need for this. So our user.go, yeah, okay, that'll work. So now we can go ahead back into our router. Let's add all of these to our router. So we don't need this route anymore. So we want to go ahead and add the auth routes. So let's go ahead and do user group dot post login, and that's going to use HTTP handlers dot login. Again, I think snake casing like this is going to get me yelled at, but that's a risk I'm willing to take, and this is probably going to get refactored. I think that there is a better way to name this, but for now, I'm just going to do this. Sign up, and then user group dot get, and we want to just get me. Comma, yep, profile. So I think that handles all of these. Yep, beautiful. Okay, so now we have all of these routes added. Nest.js seems to be inspired a lot, but yes, it is. Nest.js is the like class, it's like Angular, and it's these class-based sort of JS frameworks. Not my taste. I have actually built an earlier iteration of Insider Viz with Nest.js, and I didn't really like it. Part of it is kind of nice because there are no rules. I mean, not there are no rules. There are a ton of rules. It's very well structured, very like one way to do everything. And that's the sort of beauty about .NET and Spring Boot is there's like one way to do basically everything. They're super opinionated versus like with what I'm dealing with here right now in Go, there are no opinions on this. I can do this however I want, whenever I want, which is kind of a blessing and a curse. Like, it's nice having no opinions, but it's like I can do this a million different ways, and anyone can do this in a million different ways. So you kind of gotta weigh the pros and cons. But overall, I do prefer Go in all these different languages. So at least for me, I think they work the best. So now that we have all of this in here, let's go ahead and do into our storage method. So we have our type user struct, and then now we need to add some methods in here. So let's just do. I'm gonna need to break this out eventually, but for now we'll just do this one file. So let's go ahead and do func create user. And then that's going to take in a, what does this need to take in? We need to define like what we're going to be bringing in for the user. So define within our, actually, before we even do that, we need to actually initialize our database. So we need to get our database connection. That's one thing. I'm not entirely certain what the best way to do that is, to be completely honest. My VS Code theme icon pack, I'm using the GitHub Dark. I'm using the theme. Yeah, GitHub Dark default. And then the icon pack, I think it's just the default. I don't think I'm using anything special. Yeah, I think this is the default. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's just the default. I can make a video going over that if you guys want. That'd be pretty easy to do if that's something that people are interested in. But how do I initialize the database? That is really the question that I need to figure out that all of these domain-driven development guys, how are they initializing their database? Where is it getting created? And how are they passing it around? So like here, order test. Yep, fake order product. Yeah, okay. But where are you Oh, here's Mongo. Store. Oh, beautiful. Okay. Store. New store. Aha. So it's creating a new store. And then I can pass that store probably into each of these handlers to use in there. I bet that's the key. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. So we need to create this store for our user, and we'll do that. Okay. So we'll do type store struct, and then that's going to be my opinions on GraphQL. I think that GraphQL is very cool. I think it has a lot of really good use. It's basically like, if you like TRPC, it's kind of just, it's not identical, obviously, because you don't get all the syntax highlighting and super nice stuff that you would for other stuff, but it does make your life a lot easier in the long run because you effectively get end-to-end type safety between languages. Because the big issue with TypeScript with TRPC is, as nice as it is, it locks you into having a TypeScript backend, which has its pros and cons. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of, like, I don't know. TypeScript backends work really well when you have some simpler stuff, but as soon as you need more CPU heavy stuff, and as soon as things get rougher, as far as your app goes, you kind of want to have something like Go or C# or Java or any of these other languages that will create more performant backends. Same thing with Python. I don't think that Python is the most performance oriented backend language. It is a really great language, but it's, you know, it's built for data science. It's built for you write it. Basically, it's built to make C code easier to write. It's not really built for web servers. So obviously it's going to be worse at web servers than Go, which is a high performance backend language built for web servers. So makes sense. Is TRPC good for scalability? Yes and no. It's scalable in the sense that it makes your life easier to write. It's going to be way, way, way easier to deal with a project later on if you have the end-to-end type safety of TRPC. But one of the biggest issues with it that I've actually found is at work right now, I'm working on a project that involves TRPC, which is nice and it makes it really easy to work on. But as this project is growing and ballooning, the TypeScript in my editor is starting to really slow down. And it's not like I'm running this on a weak computer. I'm running on this on like a fully spec'd out Mac Pro 16-inch M1 with like 64 gigs of RAM, all this stuff, and it chugs. It gets really slow at times, and sometimes it takes a while to figure stuff out, especially with Copilot running at the same time. It gets really annoying. So the scalability in a code base is not as ideal as I would like it to be, but as far as scaling to make it easier, it is just really, really nice. It's not the default. The default has no icons for folders. Well, then I can check for you. Preferences, icon, file icon theme. VS Code icons is what it says, and I believe that's an extension. It's code. VS Code icons. This is what I use. It appears. This is it. So yeah, that's what I use there. Go back to this. Let me see. Let's see. How long have I been studying CS? Well, I started studying CS at OSU in 2020, but I actually started studying my junior year of high school. So about 4 years now I've been doing it. I started with Visual Basic back in high school. That was quite the experience. We did a bunch of different stuff, but the general gist of it was, what's it called? Yeah, we started in VB. Did that for a while. Then I did PHP and C#. Later then, I actually competed in C# in some high school competitions. Junior year, I made it to the state level. Senior year, I made it to the national level, but it got canceled because of COVID. So I wasn't able to actually go and do that, which kind of sucked. But I did that in high school. And then in college, I obviously studied CS, did that for 2.5 years through last semester. Right now, I'm technically not in school right now. I'm taking a leave of absence for work. I'm working full time as a backend dev and doing this. So yeah, it's kind of where my experience lies. So about 4 years. Okay, so within our store, we need to actually initialize our MongoDB instance. So this is going to go ahead and do double checking the quick start. I don't have this all memorized with the, don't have all of the like boilerplate for setting this up memorized, but there we go. Okay, so let's just grab this boilerplate. I'm gonna have to fix some of this. So first and foremost, do I want to be loading go.env? No, I don't. We're gonna use Viper before this. Make sure that this is set. Log.fatal. Yeah, we do need to have this in here. That's okay. Our client is going to be, yeah, that'll be okay. I want to set this to be background. So this will be context.background. And then for the disconnect, I can get rid of this. Let me double check how they did this here. connect store ctx cancel with timeout mongo.connect. Actually, yeah, I think I'm going to grab the way they do this here. This actually makes a lot of sense. I like this a lot. Grab that. Yeah, I'm going to do all of this because then I can abstract all this logic out. So we grab this, and then I'm going to need to add 2 more parameters in here. So I'm going to need URI is going to be a string, and then I'm going to need to have, let's see, URI and DB name are strings. I agree with that. URI DB name. Let's go ahead and camel case that because I like it that way. Then timeout, time.duration. Yeah. Timeout. Timeout is going to be time.duration. And then we don't actually need this mongo.database. And then let me change this to be out. And then let's see, URI. Is this, oh, whoops. There we go. That should fix it. And then return store and error. Perfect. Okay, yeah, I actually agree with that a lot. That makes sense. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Sounds like React. Sounds like React, too much freedom. I mean, yeah, there is a lot of freedom in the Go and the React world and all that stuff. And it's one of the best things and the worst things about it is there are literally 700,000 ways you can do this. Like, there is no one way to write this backend. I am trying this sort of different approach because a lot of people, when I like posted the thing earlier, when I was talking about the sort of backend setup that I came up with, which was this, the better backend idea, which was just kind of like, this is very Express-like, which is true because I come from an Express background. It's where I write a lot of my backend code is in Express and all that stuff. So I sort of structured this that way, but a lot of people were talking about how in Go, there's a lot of different ways to do things and you can group things in a more intelligent way. So I've been reading a lot about that and I'm trying to actually implement all of that feedback and do this sort of domain-driven stuff where like I organize by my users. So my users have their own section with the storage and I'm leveraging all of this stuff that we can do with Go. Eventually I want to get to the point where we can drill all the way down to we don't even need fiber anymore. We can just raw write our own, just use the HTTP handlers under the hood and go from there. But that's a long way away. So I'm trying to just do this piece by piece, figure out how all this works. I think that in the end, this will make a more scalable, sustainable app because if you have these little pieces, the idea is that these are modular, just easy to understand pieces. Because in here, what's going to happen with this is this handlers directory is eventually just going to get completely full and insane if you have like a real scaling app. But eventually we'll just have in this internal directory, we just each domain gets its own section. So if I wanted to go ahead and add in here like analytics section, we can just add that and then it'll have its own storage, its own HTTP handlers, and all that stuff will just work and it makes it a lot easier to deal with. How do you know when to return an error and when not to in Go? It's kind of just up to you how you want to organize it. This error in here, so here if I have an error connecting to my MongoDB instance, I'm returning an error. And I could just throw and panic an error here and not return it. So it's totally up to you how you want to organize this. In this case, I'm going to be returning it because I want to throw it up to this router because within this create user section, like I think this shouldn't even be create user section. This should just be create user. Create user group. So this will be the create user group. And then within here, we need to do our auth routes. So we have our handlers in here, login. See, let me double check that I can pass something in here. So I'm going to do test string. I want to make sure I have in my head exactly how I want this to work. Test. So then now within this router, if I do login and then test, it's going to yell at me here. So router.post. So it's going to take in a function that takes in all of that information. So, it's the best way to pass all of that in. Yeah, absolutely. Writing, I definitely am pretty comfortable with how to write all of the net HTTP calls and stuff like that on paper. I get how it works, but it's really the biggest thing I'm trying to figure out right now is what the best way to structure a project with all this stuff is. And I want to eventually turn this into like a recreatable structure of a project, because all of this kind of sucks to figure out and get it all together. But like once you have all this working and once you had like a project like this up and going with a nice example, it'd be super easy to actually just build something off of. So eventually I want to turn this into like a CLI app where you could just initialize a new app and it would spit out all of this stuff for you. And I wouldn't have to sit here trying to figure out, well, what's the best way to organize this? Where do I want to put my storage? And how do I want that to point around? You give a nice template so that everyone can actually, write this in a decent amount of time, because a lot of this kind of sucks to deal with. So here, I think I'm just going to do within my... So when they create their new store, let me see where they call this new store. So within this Mongo directory, they have their store, and then we have our order store, order repository. M store is going to be a store, which they're getting from the other file there. I agree with this. So then the question is going to be, so within infra, they're doing all of this stuff. And then within this, so in their CMD HTTP, I like this a lot. So they go in here and they initialize all of this. Where are the stores getting initialized? That's the question. So they're going through here and they have their query controller, which is a new HTTP. Oh, it looks like they're using Echo for their... Are they using Echo? Yeah, it looks like they're actually using Echo for their HTTP framework, which that's kind of interesting. That's something I've been interested in trying out, is Echo. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is true. Yeah, I know. Go frameworks, I get that those are going to have their issues, but, Okay, so let's see. So they're creating new order query service, repository, new order repository, store, repository, and then this is creating a new order query service. New order query service, get orders. So this store, so the stores are being created all the way up here, and then it's getting passed down into that. And then, oh, yeah, I think I see how they're doing things. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I think that makes sense. Because within here, I can just have, yeah, I think that makes sense. So then within the query controller, they're passing in the service. The query controller is going to have, oh, come on. GitHub, why are you not being smart? Please let me get into this. You know what? Let's just go ahead and actually download this directory and go through this, because I think there's a lot to be learned from this. I think it's definitely useful. All right, make directory examples. Clone that. Cool. We're gonna go ahead and do this. So class code go -ddd. Okay, so within here, so they have docs for the Swagger. I totally agree with that. Docker, totally agree with this. Deploy, yep, I like that. CMD, HTTP, main.go. All right, so let's just start up here. Let's just go through how they're doing all this stuff. So let's just kind of talk about this. So within their main thing here, what we're doing up here is we're initializing up in main. So this is what's running at the start. This will run, and then we're going to do cleanup error from this run function. So this cleanup is going to just be a function that we generate, which is probably just going to do all the like shutdowns and stuff like that. That's going to close all the databases, I assume. So we have this function here. So server, we're building up our server, which we'll do in a moment down here. Then down here, what we're going to do is we start our server in the background, and then we return a function here, which is going to be context.timeout. Time.duration. What is this doing? Context with timeout. Yeah, okay, so server.shutdown. There we go. Okay, so this is going to shut down the server, so we defer our shutdown. So the cleanup is going to do this. And then, okay, so that makes sense. Then down here, within our build server, this is where things really get interesting. Yeah, okay. Make sure got all this, looks good. Okay, yeah, so this is definitely where things get interesting. So in here, what we're doing is they have their config up here, and then they're creating a repository, a service, and then a bus. So the repository right here, if I F12 into here, so we have this new order repository, which is just going to make an order repository, which looks to be just data. So this is just going to be a map right here. Yeah, okay, so this is just being stored server side. So this isn't even like a database or anything like that. So this doesn't look to be connecting to a MongoDB thing. I could be wrong, but from here it doesn't look like that is. And then a new order query service is going to create this service. And then S, so where's S? Where's S coming from? S is going to be, S is on the service. And within the service, we're going to have a store, which is this. So when we create our new service, we have all of this, okay? So then all of this, where is going to be our query controller? This is going to be HTTP. I need to figure out where these handlers go in. I apologize. I know that this is a lot of like reading other code and learning it, but I think that there's a lot to be learned from other people's code and how all this stuff works. This is the struct, aka yeah, that's the service. Agree with that. So we go through. So then now here within this, we have our get order. So we have this query controller. So this get order. So this is basically just a handler in here. So get orders. Service. Jeez, there's a lot down in here. There's a lot of stuff within all of this. A lot of stuff in here. So within here, the order store. Okay, more than I probably need. So within this roots, here it is. So s.get orders. And within this get orders, that's coming from this query controller. And then that is going to be O. And this is going to come off of a query controller. And that's how we pass in our database. Got it. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Please explain. So basically what we're doing right now is I'm looking at how other people structure Go projects, figuring out like what the best way to manage all of this stuff is. Obviously there is no one way that is the best, but I want to leverage more of the sort of Go based stuff because I come from a sort of TypeScript background, and a lot of the Go code I've written, even though I have written a ton of it, I mean, I have Go code in production. I have a lot of experience with this. I've not been writing it in this sort of Go semantic way. And I haven't been leveraging stuff like methods in here, like using these structs and all these methods and using like domain driven stuff and organizing everything into a better sort of flow and structure. So I want to try and actually do that on this project. So that's why I downloaded this right here. Let's go DDD. It's just this repo right here. If you guys want to actually look at this yourself, you can go ahead and do this. Alberto, thank you. Glad this is, yeah, this does feel kind of like the Java way, sort of. I think it's a little different, but it's definitely more Java-y, I think. More Java-y than certainly something like TypeScript. Because in the TypeScript world, at least the way I've seen a lot of Express servers written, is you kind of just end up with like you have a models directory, and then you have a you've got models, and then you've got your like handlers, and then you've got your like all that stuff is just organized real nicely. But here it seems like we're organizing things by concern and creating these storage handlers and stuff for all that. And I think that's actually kind of good. I kind of like that a lot. So let me reorganize this over here. So let's go ahead and actually implement all of this. So let's just start down here with our store itself. So we have our new store. So let's just start from the bottom and work our way up. So within HTTP handlers, I think I'm going to move this out. So HTTP internal routes. So I think within user, I'm actually just going to switch this to, what do they have up here? Do they have routes server? No, that's not what I need. HTTP routes. This is going to be use routes. I think this will be fine the way I kind of have this, honestly. So within these in here, I want to do type user, user handler struct. So then here, what we're going to want to do is this is what's going to go ahead and actually contain all of these different methods and stuff. So within this user handler, we're going to want to keep track of a store, which is going to be a user.store. So which is actually going to be a store. What did I call this package again? So this is going to be a storage.store. Storage.store. There we go. Okay, so now we have the store in here. And what we can do is I'm going to delete all of this to make sure that these are clean and correct. And then we can go ahead and just switch this back to hello. And we're going to go back over here. And these are going to now turn into struct methods. So we're going to pass in a pointer to, we'll just pass in, the one word thing is kind of weird, but I kind of get it. So the query controller is how they're doing this. I do like the snake cased naming convention over there. I don't know if everyone likes that, but personally I do like having that. So this right here is going to have, let's just call this user. Yeah, again, this is a little off, but for now we'll figure this out. User handler. This is going to need to be refactored like crazy. Just putting that out there. This is for sure not all correct, but I want to get this out and working, and then we can kind of take another pass at this and take another pass and see if there are better ways to do this. And I'm sure that a lot of people are going to have a lot of opinions on this, and I want to hear them. I do not know everything, and this is just sort of how I'm trying to set this up, because I think this seems like it would be a good way to do it. But if there's a better way to do this, I want to know. I would love to figure out a better way to do it. So user handler. So there we go. So we have all this in here. So with our user handler, we can grab the store, and within the store, we're going to be able to create methods that will basically implement CRUD on here. So like I could just do like, let's just add a, we do need a close method here on our store, and then that's just going to be disconnecting our thing in here. So then let's just do like a func s store, and then let's just do like, user, and then that'll just, no, I don't want to do that. But for now, I don't want to return the Mongo collection. I want to actually just like use the store itself. So I want to use the store to do all my CRUD operations. So this will return an error. But what we can do is for now, I'm just going to have this return nil. And then I'm going to have this just do fmt.println and then user called. That'll be good. Just to show all of this working. Then within this over here, what we can do is let's just within our like login handler or whatever, let's just do u.store.user. So we can do u.store.user. So then this will allow us to actually like show, like get our user out. So this is how we'll actually communicate with our database. So then now our database is abstracted away from our handlers themselves. Should be a cleaner way of doing it. What is DDD? Well, DDD is just another way of organizing and doing projects. The expressed way does work, and this works as well. They're just different ways of doing it. I want to try this because this is something I'm not as familiar with. But the what CQRS in the utilize Git repo is, where did they use CQRS, and in what is the sort of context behind that is the question. Let me see. CQRS. CQRS, that, to tell you the truth, I am not entirely certain. This is definitely like, this is not something I'm familiar with, CQRS. The domain-driven design is something that I'm working on learning right now. And then this is something that I am not familiar with. So we'll definitely look more into this. But, yeah, so there we go. So now we have all of this working. Now we can go back into our router here and then HTTP handlers. Login, let's delete this. So then now we need to actually create a new, so these methods are no longer public. We need to create a user handler here. So what we're going to do within our router here, when we create our user group, we also need to pass in a handler, user handlers, and then that's going to be HTTP handlers.user handler, right? Yeah. That's right. So then we're going to do user handlers.login and user handlers.logout. So what's nice about this is now we sort of have a single point of control on a lot of this stuff, which definitely I can see having a lot of benefits. We'll see. I mean, time will tell. If this ends up feeling worse, then for sure I will probably end up going back to more of an express sort of thing. But I think you kind of just have to figure out what makes sense for you for organizing all this stuff. So the MVC patterns, yes, MVC is definitely different. Only be calling services from handlers. Yeah, that's true. You probably should only be doing those from handlers. I do agree with that. Yeah. Crap. Okay, well, that's just going to have to be a refactor. For now, I want to actually get stuff up on screen to make this more interesting, because right now this is kind of really boring because it's just kind of me going through and messing around with some different design techniques that I'm not super familiar with, which is not interesting to watch. What's interesting to watch is front-end stuff and actually doing stuff and stuff actually happening. So let's just focus on getting towards that, and then I'll go back through and refactor this more and more and try a bunch of stuff. We'll see. So let's go ahead and do then main.go. So now what I need to do is I need to actually create my store. So we first need to create the store. So user store : storage dot new store, and then this. Is there anything this is missing? And it returns an error as well. Right. So error. And then we're going to go ahead and do, so build server. If this doesn't work for now, I'm going to panic. I'm going to reorganize that in a second. So now we're going to do our user handlers. Is going to be down here. We need to create our user handler. This should actually probably be a user service instead, to be honest. Instead of a handler, should be or query controller, I guess is the way they call it. So the query controller doing all this stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. Service. God, yeah, this is so Java-like. This is such a Java type thing. I've done some basic stuff in like Java and Kotlin and all that, and this really feels like that. I don't know, it's interesting. I don't know how I feel about parts of this I really like, parts of this I really just don't like. I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see it through. Definitely worth looking into. And I'd love to, if there's someone who has a perspective on this that I don't, I would love to know how you feel about this and how all this stuff works. So for now, we'll just leave this as user handler. So now I need to actually create, so func new user handler, and then all that's going to do is just return this, set the store. I agree with that. And then, so then this will be HTTP. Yeah, and that's just like, that's the wrong name and all that stuff. So let's to do rename the handlers and refactor. But for now, I just want to get stuff on the screen. I really don't care. The big thing is to just get the interesting stuff happening. Is the stream disconnecting? My internet is awful. It's really terrible. I could definitely see this not being at a point where streaming is good, because my internet in this apartment is really, really terrible. Because it says they recommend at least this, and then this. HTTP2 is one of those things where if you need it, you know you need it, and you should go implement it in something that has it, which like Echo has it and all that stuff. But because it's a newer standard of HTTP that has more features, and certainly if you're exposing a public endpoint, you probably want to support it. But for a lot of different stuff, you kind of don't need it. Like for Insider Viz, we're using Fiber and it doesn't have HTTP2, but it doesn't matter. I don't care, because we don't need to have it. But if you need it, then I think Echo is one framework I found that does it. And Echo is abstracted a little higher. But obviously you could just do like, yeah, Gorilla works. But I think one of the issues that they have is they don't have a maintainer anymore. So Gorilla is just floating out in the void, Mux, all that stuff. It doesn't have a maintainer. And I think it's gone into public archive. So it's not supported or maintained anymore. So I wouldn't pick that up for any new projects. Certainly I'd look at something else. So that is definitely something to worry about, unfortunately. Okay, so the user handlers down here, we have our user store user handlers. And then down here within our user group, now we can finally do our create user group. Does this return anything? No, for now it doesn't. And that's going to be user.create user group. Again, this is definitely going to need to be refactored a bit. Don't love a lot of the parts of this, but for now, this will certainly work and it'll get my Fiber app running and we can start doing basic stuff and I can start getting stuff up on the screen, which is really what everyone wants to see. We want to actually be solving some business problems instead of just arguing with ourselves over domain stuff and, you know, whether or not you should be calling this a handler or a service or whatever. Really doesn't matter for right now. So with all that said, let's go ahead and test our login here. So on our login, if we do /user/login, we should, oh, that should be a post. And then we do this hello, and then user has been called. Perfect. And within here, we have all the way up here, we're connecting to practical skills. Within our storage here, we are now getting a new store here. So we're connecting to our database. And then let's just say mt.println connected to MongoDB. Double check all that stuff is working. So we're building, running. Yep, connected to MongoDB. So let's go ahead and let's implement a signup route. So let's actually be able to like create an end user because that's what we actually want to do. Okay. And yes, this is correct. It is basically just faster, but you don't necessarily need it for a lot of things. So let's go ahead and do GoLang bcrypt. I'm going to need to go back through and add Viper and all that stuff as well. I'm going to need to, yeah, definitely need to, yeah. I want the Stack Overflow one. This is going to be annoying. Okay, so bcrypt generate from password, default cost. Okay, so we need to actually hash our passwords. So within our, let me move this over here, grab this, looks good here. What I'm going to want to do within this signup route is we're going to go back to user handlers.signup, and then within here, sign up. So I'm going to just go ahead and do type sign up request. So let's just say dictate what I want the sign up request to be. So within the body, we're going to want them. They need to pass in an email. They need to pass in a password. We want their first name. We want their last name. And I think that's all we're storing, right? Yeah, so we just need their email and their password, and then we're going to go ahead and hash that password. I'm going to be doing custom auth for right now. Might go back in the future and re-implement this with an auth provider, something like Stitch or Auth0. For now, I want to just show how you would do this and kind of talk about authentication, but I think in a production environment, I do like having another auth service, even though I'm pretty comfortable with I understand authentication. It's one of those things where it's a liability. I don't necessarily trust it. Iris. I have not heard much about Iris or know a huge amount about Iris. The one that I've heard about is Echo. Echo is one that I want to try, and I know that has HTTP too. If we look at this, Echo GoLang, it's a super minimalist type thing, and it has all this stuff. So it's HTTP2, it's got middleware, template, like all this stuff is nice in here. So it's got all the stuff you probably need there. Fiber is, again, I like Fiber a lot because it's really, really convenient and easy to use, and it's very similar to what I was used to. I came from an Express background, like I said, so this makes a lot of sense for me. But yeah, I think Echo is where I would look personally. Okay, so we have Echo here, and then bcrypt. Yeah, okay, so we're gonna read that. So then let's get the body from request, and then var body sign up request. Double check the body parser out of Fiber. Body parser, make sure that we're getting this right. Yeah, I prefer new over the way the syntax. So u : new sign up request. And actually this should be lowercase. So that should be lowercase because we want that to be private scoped. That's a big thing here is, oh yeah, whoops. let's just do request body, and then body parser is going to be request body, and then error, and then yeah, I want to do if error not equal to nil, parentheses here, and then we can do error colon equals this. I think that's the right syntax. I always forget. Okay, let's just grab this. Perfect. Okay, so now we can get this. And then let's go ahead and just, first thing I want to do is let's just go ahead and hash the password. Probably, like, I'll put a 2 up here to validate all of this, but I'm not going to do that right now. For now, let's go ahead and just hash the password. GoLang, so yeah, GoLang syntax feels really, really different when you're, I started in Java. Well, I didn't start in Java, but I started in VB and then C# and then Java. So I'm very used to those. And the syntax is extremely different. Stuff like this colon equals and stuff like these struct methods and all this stuff. It's very different, but the more I use it, the more I like it. I'm learning a ton about it all the time. I think I have a very strong, like, upper intermediate understanding of Go. I've used it in production in multiple apps. I'm very comfortable with the concurrency model and all that stuff. But a lot of the, like, more theoretical Go specific stuff that people talk about with, you know, structuring projects, the way they like to organize things and all that stuff, that's something that I'm really trying to learn and get into right now. And that's why I'm trying to structure this differently. I'd structure some other stuff, even though I think that arguably some of the decisions I've made are very questionable. This should not be HTTP handlers. This storage, this is fine. But this will be refactored later. For now, I'm just trying to get stuff on the screen. Okay, so bcrypt password hashing. So let's go ahead and just copy this, double check that, grab this, and then it should auto import, and then yeah. And now what we can do, so password should instead be request body dot password. So I'm going to want to grab the password. Yep, it's right. It'll pull it into a byte array here. And then if error is not equal to nil, we're going to go ahead and do return c dot status is going to be internal server error, or no, that's going to be a status bad request, fiber.map, message, error hashing password. Perfect. Probably make that less descriptive eventually, but for now this will work. And then I want to just, yeah, let's just send down the hash password for now. And then we'll go ahead and actually create our user in a moment here. And then once we have this, we'll start looking at the front end. And I think that's where things will get more interesting. Yes. I don't know. Echo might be used by Pocket Base. That would be, if it is, then that's definitely good up for that, because Pocket Base is great. I really, really like it a lot. Part of me even thought about using Pocket Base for this project. And honestly, I think if I was just going for speed, I probably would. But here, I'm trying to get more into Go and really use it in a real project. Like I said, I know a lot, but I still have a lot to learn. So, yeah. So here, so this is going to be our sign up route. So user/sign up. Let's go ahead and within our body here, let's change this to email, and then password, and then first, how did I set this up? What did I set this to be in JSON? Okay, camel cased. First name and last name. So first name is going to be, I'll just put in my name. And this is going to be fake at test.com. And then for our password, we'll just make this is df1234. Perfect. So send, and then this will send out. Perfect. So this will bcrypt send this down. So every single time this will get a different one, but we can just use the compare sync thing over here to do that nicely. What's with this weird handling? Does it? I'm actually not sure. I've seen other frameworks do that. I wasn't actually sure if they did that. Give me a moment. Go ahead and do this. And then let's just pass this in like body parser. I think, yeah, let's just pass in a number for our password because it's expecting a string, so that should fail there. JSON. Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Never mind. It is right. So yep, that is a better way to do that. It is just because sometimes I like to send down custom error messages, so I do that sometimes, but if you used Rust, yeah, I mean, I'm sure that there are different ways. Yeah, there is no try catch, and that's one of the big things that some people like, some people hate. Personally, I kind of like it. It can be weird sometimes, and the fact that I'm always returning two different things is weird, but it works. You get used to it. Okay, so generate from password, a byte array of request body.password. So we've got all this stuff. Now we want to go ahead and send the string down, which is going to be a string of hashed passwords. So now that we have our hashed password, let's go ahead and actually create the end user. So within our storage here, now we're going to leverage this store. Now let's go ahead and make a func s store create user. And that's going to return an error. And then for the create user object, one thing I'm curious about is what's the way a lot of people like to like type their stores and stuff like that. So order beast on here. So like for get, so like where's their create in here? Order create, pointer to domain. Oh, okay, so they do this. Interesting. Very interesting. So, M store. Okay. Where is it? Oh, so they're just doing data and update. Okay, so they're not typing it. Yeah. Do I have more fun coding in Go or TS? It really depends on what I'm doing. TS is nice in a lot of ways, and like this is way more like headachy, for lack of a better word, figuring out all this stuff. But it's also because the way I'm trying to structure this is new. Go is nice because I love how fast it is, and the better I'm getting at this language and the more I'm using it, the more I'm enjoying it. I really like writing Go, but a lot of that is because I am using Copilot. One thing I found is that Go without Copilot can get really annoying because if you just look at all this code, there's a lot of boilerplate in here, and just using Copilot makes my life way, way, way easier. So, yeah, personally, I think it's kind of a toss up, but probably right now I'd say Go. Although TS is very nice when it works. When it works, obviously. Yeah, there aren't like the error handling is so much like if you're coming from a Rust background and stuff, um yeah, these are going to be worse than Rust. That is like one of the biggest issues with Go. But one of the things that you can do that I've seen recommended, and I probably will do at some point, is you can create like an error module in here, your own custom error handling thing, and then just every single time if you get an error that's expected, then you just send it down. So you can just create your own error off of that. I'm not going to be doing that right now. My error handling is going to be super jank for now because this is just MVP to get stuff working, but that is a way that you could do it. Yeah, I saw this. I think I don't know, try catch. I don't have a huge opinion on this personally. New user, just do interface. I don't really care. Well, I'm not going to strong type it for right now. So then what we're going to do is we're going to user. So we're going to do s.db.collection. DB is actually a pointer to a database, and we're setting, yeah, so the database.collection users, and then context.background is going to be new user. And then let's go ahead and do, what's it called? So then we can do error, colon equals this. What is this going to return? Insert one will return, yep, a result. So res and error. And then we're going to have this return an ID. So the ID is going to be a string, comma, error. So then we can go down here and then we can do error not equal to nil, return empty string and error. Otherwise, we want to return the inserted ID. Yeah, I like that. That will work. So we can go back over here to auth, and then we'll do user, comma, user ID, comma, error, error, colon equals, u.store dot create user. And then in here, I'm just going to pass in new user. Let's just pass in request body. Should be it. Error not equal to nil. Return error. Again, we're going to make these things better later. And then for now, we're just going to do c.sendString user ID. This is far from perfect. Far, far, far from perfect. Oh, shoot. This is actually not right. Yeah, there's not like result. Yeah. Yep, it is always like this. Yeah, I agree with this. I do totally agree with this. Error handling in Rust is 10,000 times better than it is in Go. It's kind of unfortunate, but it's also a lot easier to write Go, so you take the wins where you can get them. What's going to be the easiest way to... All right, I've actually not... I don't usually end up passing stuff like this, so I'm kind of curious what this is going to end up being, actually, if I just put in request body... So we just create miss. How can we just create, yeah, GoLang's anonymous structs. This is something that I have not actually had to mess with all that much. So I basically always do it here, but I typically don't do, I never do these like anonymous structs. This is something I typically don't do. Yeah. Yes, experience does matter. And that's what we're working on getting right now. Yeah, error handling will probably be updated in future iterations of Go, for sure. Okay, so create user. So this right here is just going to take in. What's the best way to type this, honestly? Type new user. I just want to type all of this. I just think it's so much better. It's just so much easier to deal with. And then I can also add the bson in here the way I like it. So password is going to be this, and then first name. And then I like to, in my database, I typically do snake casing in there. Last name, beautiful. So then now I can set this new user to be a new user. So that's going to be renaming and user. And yep, and now we just change this to end user. And then now we should be good. Beautiful. So then now we should be able to just go ahead and put into here, hopefully, I believe, email, password, first name, last name. Will it yell at me? No, shoot, that's not going to work. Yeah, it definitely does not take that long to get good with Go. I'm messing with some weird stuff in Go, and I'm trying a bunch of different stuff right now, which is why this looks so bad. But a lot of it is kind of just trying to figure out, what's the cleanest way to do this, and what's the nicest way to pass all this stuff in, and that's worth figuring out, I think. Yep. Element struct. Actually, probably instead of doing this as a struct, it's probably just going to be easier to just do. Right here, we're just going to pass in. This is what I should have done for the beginning. Word, first name, last name. And these are all going to be strings. And then we're going to go in here. We're going to do end user, colon equals, new user, and then we're gonna put an email, password, first name, last name, this, and then we can all laugh at that fact that I am an idiot and I should have just done it this way from the beginning. But yeah, messing with this is what happens when you mess with new stuff. I'm trying different ways of doing all of this. I typically would just do all of this in one file, so I think it's worth noting that there are other ways to do this. So request body dot email, and then we're going to do hashed password, and then all this stuff. And it's not lowercase e, it's uppercase e. Copilot was screwing with me here. So create user is going to take an email, password, string, first name, last name. This is, oh, I need to cast this to a string. We want to do string. Yep, beautiful. Okay. So now, once we've done all of this, all of that nonsense out of the way, we should be able to have all this stuff in here. And then we can go ahead and do create a user, and it's going to blow up. So what is it mad about? Interface is primitive. Ah, okay, yeah. So it is, yeah. So Copilot was definitely wrong about that one. So we need to do user ID dot. So yeah, this is going to be a primitive. Is it? Hold up. Create user. That's string cloning. Theoretically, but I don't think so. You can, but this is like the reason it's all just strings is because this is much higher level than Rust. This is not Rust. This is very different. Like Rust does things very differently than Go does. Very, very differently. So, okay. So now that we have this in here, user ID. Where is it? Mad here. So insert one. So the error message we get up here is logger all the way down here. Storage. User go routine 38. Collection insert one. Yep, it should just be this. Interface. Object, not string. So let me double check. GoLang insert. Make sure everything looks clean in here so we have our client database. Write operations, insert a document. Make sure everything looks clean in here. So we are just passing in new restaurant. So that's going to be this right here. So new user. So email, password. So let's just make sure that this is good. Make sure that that's not where everything is bottlenecking. Double check that everything looks good in here. So we just have 4 strings, no IDs, no nothing like this. We're just going to do context.background. Beautiful. And then end user is going to be this. All this stuff looks good. We don't need. Yeah, beautiful. And oh, it's interface. Oh, it's this down here. This is what's breaking it. Oh. Dot inserted ID, and the result here is going to be dot. Oh yeah. Okay, so the result here is going to have all of this. Yeah, it's going to have insert one inserted result. What is the result type? Let me double check from over here. I haven't run the inserts in a while. Double check that. Having a full-time concept of backend as a service with SaaS, you are limited to. Well, the backend as a service is basically just like a database wrapper or an auth wrapper or something like Pocketbase or Firebase or any of these different things, which will just make it way easier to actually deal with your backend and stuff, because the backend itself can be really obnoxious to run and deal with. Like all this stuff I'm doing right now, it'll basically do it for you. So all you have to do is just call these really nicely made, super easy endpoints, and it'll just work. Yeah. Yep, this is exactly what's going wrong. This is what I'm fixing right now. It's just, yeah, I don't know why Copilot just threw that in there, and it's not correct. Dot inserted ID, but the question is, what is the like convertible function off of that? I forget what it is. Let me double check. MongoDB GoLang create result. How to create documents, double check this. Yeah, just what is the end result? Because we actually go ahead. Yeah, I agree with all of this. Podcast result. So what are you calling the result? Dot inserted ID. Well, whatever. We're just going to call it res dot. It only has this on it. I'm so confused. Your return type. No, there are no traits. Like, this is not Rust. Like, if you want Go to be Rust, it's not going to be Rust. Rust has many, many, many more features than Go. And it's got a lot of stuff that Go doesn't. Trust me. I fully get that there's a huge difference between the two. Go driver. So we go ahead and bson. What is so insert result dot inserted ID. It's not going to be a string. Vert inserted to string GoLang MongoDB. Where is the guy in here? Result. Let's see. Yeah, because it's the primitive.object ID. Yeah, that's what it actually is. Primitive object ID, and then OID. Yeah, okay, beautiful. Yeah, this is what I'm looking for. Yep. Could you change it to return it? Yes, I could change it to return an object ID, but I don't want an object ID up there. I just want to have the other one. In Insider Viz, are you hosting the whole backend on Railway with a Go API, React MongoDB, or Redis? Yeah, I do actually have a bunch of different hosting platforms. Railway hosts the servers for the backend, so all the Go code is hosted on Railway. The database is hosted on MongoDB Atlas, and then the front end code is all hosted on Vercel. So I have those in three different places. A little messy, but it works. It works pretty well. So grab this, and then we want this to just be res, and then over here. So OID is going to be primitive.oid. Yep, beautiful. ID dot string. Yep, beautiful. We want to just return OID dot string nil. And then otherwise, we're just going to do return. Yeah. Perfect. Beautiful. Okay, so now this should hopefully stop exploding on me. I hope so. Yay, there we go. So we got our object ID back here. So OID.string. And if we just did, yeah, beautiful. Okay, so now we have all of this. And if we go all the way down here into our MongoDB, my local instance, if I just refresh everything, we should have a new database in here called practical skills with users in here. And there we go. We have our users in here. Things are actually happening. Yay. So let's go ahead and delete all of these real quick. I'm going to delete these. Again, there's a ton of cleanup that needs to be done, but at least this is actually something useful. Is it possible to disclose my cost on all platforms? $20 a month for Vercel. Everything else is free. Oh, that's not true, actually. The MongoDB is stupid expensive. That's like $70-$80 a month. That's really expensive. But we also have like 5 gigs of crap hosted, and we're constantly running aggregations and constantly querying off of it. And we need the like big dedicated cluster because we have really heavy stuff. But 90% of our cost is just in the database solution. Otherwise, it's just Vercel, because you need the $20 a month thing for the you need the $20 a month thing for what's it called? Just compliance. They don't let you actually use stuff commercially without it. And then yeah, that's it. That's all we need. Railway Go is so efficient that our usage is below the developer threshold. They give you $5 free a month, and we never hit that threshold because I static build a lot of stuff, and yeah, it just works really, really well. So now let's go ahead and implement login here. And then once we have yeah, logout, we don't actually need a root for logout. So, or I guess I'll leave it in for now. We're going to need to get rid of that. But for now, we can do, let's go ahead and do check. Yeah, so here we want to get user password. So func get user func on the store. We want to do pointer to the store. And we're going to want to do get user password. And then we're going to do user ID. User ID of string. Probably want to handle all of this ID wise. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Okay, beautiful. So we're going to get object ID from hex, collection users find one, OID, and then we want to return user.password. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That's exactly what I wanted. Thank you, Copilot. Copilot makes writing Go code way more pleasant. The Mongo cloud isn't replaceable in order to reduce cost. It might be, but I haven't really looked into it. It works so well, and it's so nice that I kind of just like using it. It has tons of really great features that just work super well for me. Stuff like you can just go in and it just has a beautiful like console in there, and it'll tell you when like you need to index something. If you forget to index something, it'll let you know. It's super easy to manage your indexes in there. Atlas search is super efficient and fast. I mean, they made MongoDB. It's the best place to host it. I like it a lot. Why wouldn't user ID be object ID? Well, the result back here is it stores it. MongoDB stores their IDs as this object ID type. So like it's a little different back here. So like within the users table, I guess I don't have any anymore, but I'll go ahead and create another user right now. So if we create this, we're going to get this guy over here. And then in here, he's going to exist with all this stuff. And this is the actual ID. So it's not a string, it's this. So we have to convert back and forth. So even though like I can't send an object ID type over JSON, I have to convert the strings that I'm going to send over JSON into that ID. So for login, we're going to need to take in type login request. So we're going to need an email and a password. And then within the email and password, actually that's not true. We don't want to get user. We don't want to get this by user ID. We want to get this by email. So we're going to do, we don't even need all this crap. I was not thinking. So we can just do this. And then we want to do where our email is equal to email. So then we can get our user out. It's just doing a bunch of chaining in here, which makes it really easy to deal with. So then we can get our user out and then get our user's password and send that back here. And then this is the actual hash. This isn't the password itself. So I guess I should call this hash. We'll get the user password hash. And then now with this password hash, we can actually compare it. So let's go ahead and get the body from the request. New login request, like getting rid of this space. Then we can go ahead and do error not equal to nil. And then in here, again, we're just returning error. This is not, we're going to go ahead and change our errors later, make this nicer. Again, later on, we're going to fix the body. But then from here, we're going to do password. do return an error. Beautiful. So password comma error :equals u.store dot get user password hash. Let's just do hashed password. And then we're going to go ahead and make sure that this error is not equal to nil. If error not equal to nil, return error. Again, this is the sort of gross part of Go, is these massive error, if error not equal to nil, return errors. And then we're going to go ahead and compare the password. So let me double check this. bcrypt GoLang compare password. Let's double check. Compare hash and password. All we need to pass in is hash, password, and password. Okay, cool. So, and that returns an error. Returns nil on success or an error on failure. All right, so comparison, yeah, and then we just want to cast these into byte arrays. Beautiful. I know that we need to add more validation stuff like this. This is totally like I said, this is totally like minimum viable product stuff right now, where we're just trying to get this to a point of being able to run stuff on the front end. This is going to need to take multiple passes on it to go and fix stuff. I want to fix the layout of all this over here. We need to add validation. We need to strip out characters, all this stuff. So for now, it'll work, but we'll make it better in the long run. Don't worry. I don't know if everyone develops this way, but for me, I've found that I kind of do my development pass-wise, where I'll go through and I'll do I'll get a minimum viable product out, and I'll go back through and do it. I'll just go through the entire thing again and polish and just keep going through over and over and over again. I find that's a pretty clean way to do everything. So we'll make the JWT in a moment here, but for now we'll just say you are logged in. It's not true, but we'll get that fixed in a moment here. So then now, if I just pass this in, I have all this stuff in here. If I switch this to login, we run this, you are logged in, because it's the same password. But if I change this to an S, is not the hash of the given password. Again, we need to fix all of these error messages, but for now, this will work. How would this work if you're using error types that map from all the potential errors? I don't think Go has super clean error handling stuff like that. You kind of have to do all of this custom. You are definitely clearly Tom from a Rust background, and this is not Rust. And error handling is pretty bad in Go. I know it is really good in Rust, but it is pretty bad here. So we're going to have to go ahead and make a bunch of custom errors and stuff for all this. Like I'm going to have to go and make like a 404. I'm going to have to make a 404, 403, 400, a bunch of stuff like that. We're gonna have to make all of those and then add all that custom. Not great, but it works. So now with this logged in, what I'm gonna want to do is, I think for the authentication, we're just going to send down a cookie. So we're gonna do an HTTP only cookie for the authentication. This is one thing where I'm never seen a ton of different ways for authentication to be done. For now, I'm gonna do it with a cookie. So set HTTP cookie GoLang fiber. So I want to set an HTTP only cookie. So we go in here. C.cookie fiber. Yeah, so where's the fiber cookie default config? Yeah, here it is, CSRF. Shoot. I'm trying to think what the best way to do all. Well, okay. We'll go back through and do this same. Let's just make the JWT first, and then we'll go and do that. Let's just start there. So create JWT token GoLang. Yeah, this is basically what I was referring to, is you can just make a custom type. I have not done a huge amount with error handling. It's not something I've really focused on, but it's something I want to get better at and focus on more. So yes, this is what I've heard from people, that you can just make like a custom error type or something and then run it that way. So I will definitely be looking at that. Also, how is like the stream like quality for you guys? Is it really laggy and kind of the speed and quality kind of bad? Because I'm getting this issue that my bit rate's really bad, and it's because I'm in a really bad part of the apartment with internet and stuff. I'm not sure if this is like even watchable, to be completely honest, but let me know if there are any issues with that. I'm also delayed by a few seconds, so regardless. JWT. Oh god, more log rocket, yay. Yeah, GoLang, JWT. Token. So we want to add claims token. Sample key. I have not done JWTs in GoLang before, so I do need to double check all this. Okay, so generate JWT string error JWT.new. In this case, so where do I put the secret in is the question, because we need to get our JWT signing secret, which right now I'm going to hard code, but do not worry, that is going to get put into the correct thing. We'll definitely make sure that all that is right. No, I don't like this. Yep, create token to verify token. I agree with this. Username. Yeah, okay. So payload, we want ID. Yeah, I like this. Token ID, so we want to generate a payload. So implement the JWT maker. Here we go. JWT maker. So maker. Yeah, this is the GoLang type way of doing things. So we want to create the token, pass in the username and duration, create token, new payload, username, duration. Where do they put the secret in? That's my question. That's what's weird. Okay, well, that's good to know. I'm glad there's... It's fine when I'm not switching between programs. Okay. Yeah, it's sub-ideal. This is definitely not a great streaming setup. I don't really know. I'm kind of playing with this. I'm probably going to focus more on like videos and that kind of thing, because the whole streaming, like, well, A, I'm not super experienced with this. I don't really know what I'm doing. And B, I think that for right now with my current setup, this is not the most ideal. I only have one monitor and stuff, so I'm kind of like swiping around to check things, and I don't have a lot of accounts set up for this. So it's not ideal. And I'm kind of just like making this up as I go, which I think isn't the most ideal. I know a lot of people typically have like super detailed plans and stuff. I'm kind of just sitting here trying to figure stuff out, which is probably not the most ideal thing in the world, and probably not the most useful stuff either, which is not ideal. I would prefer to be making more useful stuff, which I think I can distill better in traditional video content. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to be streaming all week, or if I'm going to be... I might just go back to doing like normal video stuff as I mess with this in the background, and then make a video kind of talking about all this stuff, because I don't know, like is seeing me just like mess with all this stuff and try and figure out, like, this is what I do behind the scenes, like this is what we all do, but like is this useful to see live? Like, do people want to see me sitting here reading documentation, checking stuff, messing with other projects, and just seeing how all this stuff works? Or would you rather just see the sort of well put together video, I guess, is really my question. Not really sure how people feel about that, but oh god, what is the JWT generate thing? Getting started, yes, beautiful. Okay, so yes, beautiful. I have this. Handle page, beautiful. Yep. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and run all of this. So we're going to go ahead and compare the passwords. So then we're going to just generate the JWT. See what Copilot says. It might say something smart. but I'm not sure. So, yeah, so let's just do, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do a sample key. I'm going to do colon. This is just a byte. I don't like doing var. So we do all of this. So this will be the sample key. Again, this will be an environment variable later. Don't worry. I know. But for now, this will work. So then let's go ahead and make a token colon equals jwt dot new. And then yes, we do want it to be this. Yeah. Yeah, true. I have noticed that Rust engineers do enjoy poking at the shortcomings of like Go and others. And you're not wrong. You are definitely not wrong at all. It has its issues, but streams are good to have conversations with the audience. And yeah, I definitely agree with this. I think it's good for sure. Yeah, I mean, this is my firsthand thoughts and that kind of thing. I think especially the bigger I get, the better these will be. Because, and also I think Twitch I've heard is a much better platform for streaming than YouTube is. I want to try all of that stuff and mess with it a little more in the future, but for now I'm just going to kind of do it here because I'm still pretty small, still testing all this stuff out, still learning a lot. That's a lot of the reason why I'm doing like the daily uploads and stuff, is because I'm not, I'm new to this. I'm not entirely certain exactly what I'm doing, so I want to actually, get better at doing this. And the best way to get better at stuff, in my opinion, is just do it. So that's what I'm going to do, is just try and do this as much as humanly possible, and then we'll get better sooner or later, hopefully. There we go. Yeah, okay, so then token string. Beautiful. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Token string, error, and then, yeah, so then here, if this fails, we should just return the error. And then here, we're going to go ahead and just send down, we're just going to send down the token string. We'll make this better later. Trust me. Trust me, this will be so much better. And then we need to go ahead and do go mod tidy to install all these packages. We do all of that. We can go ahead and save this, hopefully. Should. I don't think I need this. Yeah, okay, there we go. And let me go install update tools. Every once in a while it yells at me for this. So we'll go ahead and do this. And then now there we go. So we've got all of this installed. We are ready. Everything is set. And then go mod tidy. Get my go mod to shut up. There we go. And then we do air to get this started. All right. That should work. And now if we log in again, this will generate a JWT for us. And if I just copy this to jwt.io, this should have our fake information in here. If I paste this in, then my secret will be, it's a very weak secret. I agree, JWT. For now, we're just putting this in here. Secret you should hide. If we put that in here, we should get out this information. User, username, these are our claims. So then now I'm going to go ahead and change this a little bit to be, since we're logging in and we're taking in the, we're hashing the password. So I'm going to want to pass in the, actually, honestly, let's just get the full user. To be honest, I think that would be a cleaner pattern. Let's just get the user. So let's just return the user object here. We don't just need the password. Let's just get user. Get user, and then here we'll just return nil, or I guess user. And then here, let's just do user colon equals new user. Oh, whoops, make use. Var user, and then we do this, and then we'll just return user. And then back here with an auth, we're going to go ahead and instead just do store get user. Then over here, we're going to just do user. And then down here, we're going to compare the user.password. And now we should be clean. There we go. So then now on here, what I want to do is, so we have authorized is true, claims. I want to add claims this is going to be their email. I want to add their ID is going to be their, user.email. And then on the ID, we're going to do user.id. And then we're going to do first name, last name, and we don't send down their password. That would be very silly to put into a JWT. Expiration, it'll expire in 10 minutes. I probably want to make this like time.hour. And then we can do claims, all this stuff in here. Token string, sample key. Let's add a to-do fix key. That'll be when I add Viper and all that config and stuff in. So we go ahead and do c.sendString, token string. Now we go ahead and log in. We'll get this new JWT out. If we copy this over here, we paste it in here, we'll get true fake at test.com, first name and last name. Do I have first name and last name in here? First name, last name. Are those getting read out? Oh, do I have primitive collection users? Huh. Am I grabbing the wrong thing in here? Grab this. Oh, our first name and last name just not getting saved when I create the user. First name, last name. First name. So it should have Bison first name and last name, and that all should be in here correctly. But it appears that our user object is only reading the main part out. So double checking over here within our user.go. So within our getting our user, we're finding one, and we are going to grab and decode into the user object, and the user object in Bison. I found the culprit. I found it. It's being stored in the wrong way. There we go. Gotta fix this. There we go. So now when we run this, now we should send, and we should get, my name. Beautiful. And if we run this in here, we should be able to get that. But there we go. All right, sweet. Sweet. So now we have our JWT in here, and we can issue that down to the end user. We should probably send this down with as a secure cookie or something. It's probably the best way to do this, because we put it in local storage or something like that. It's super vulnerable to cross-site scripting attacks and stuff like that. So probably the cleanest way to do this is session-based via a secure cookie or something like that. So I think we will look at doing that next time. Is there implicit case conversion? I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not sure what implicit case conversion is. What time is it? Yeah, it's getting somewhat late. I think I need to get going towards the gym and stuff like that. For those of you who were here, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I know this was really all over the place and probably not the most useful thing in the world. I was kind of just messing with this to try and figure out how I want to structure it. I am going to be working on this a ton more. I don't know if I will be doing all of this on stream or not. I'm not entirely certain. We'll see what I end up doing tomorrow. Might just be back to normal. Might be back to just normal video type stuff. So, yes. Camel. Did I say the wrong thing? I might have said the wrong thing. I'm not sure. But yeah, camel case and snake case. He's correct over here. But yeah, thank you guys for being here. I'll talk to you later.